If you've ever played basketball in high school, you've probably dreamed about playing in the NBA. But the path to the league is often not very clear until the end of a high school career, because that is when basketball recruitment rankings are able to determine which players the scouts will likely be focusing on. The year 2010 was no exception to this rule, and ESPN Recruiting came up with their list of who they believe to be the best basketball players in the entire nation. But years later, I wondered, did the scouts actually get it right? So here is a breakdown of what actually happened to all of the top recruits in the class of 2010. Some names that you might recognize and others that you've likely forgotten. And the criteria to make this list is simple. You have to be one of the top 10 recruits on ESPN Recruiting for the class of 2010. And spoiler alert, the scouts definitely messed up on some of these. Starting things off with the 10th ranked player, Tristan Thompson, graduated from Findlay Prep and chose to play for the University of Texas Longhorns. They made the second round in the NCAA tournament, and he was the freshman of the year for the Big 12. But he is most famous for everything that happened after that. He went one and done, and the Cavaliers drafted him 4th overall in the NBA draft, and he played with them for most of his career. He also played with LeBron, so he won an NBA championship and started on those teams when he did, and averaged close to a double-double for most of his career. Since leaving the Cavs in 2020, he's been on 5 NBA teams in 3 years and barely played on each of them. And he's even had some off-court drama, and he's likely near the twilight of his NBA career. But Tristan Thompson is an NBA champion, and nobody can take that away from him. The 9th ranked player in 2010 was Terrence Jones out of Portland, Oregon, who chose to play his college basketball for the Kentucky Wildcats. He played 2 seasons for Kentucky and was a leading scorer in both of them, helping them to the Final Four and then a national championship, with Anthony Davis leading the team. He turned pro after his sophomore year and was the 18th overall pick by the Houston Rockets. He played 4 full seasons for the Rockets before suiting up for the Pelicans and the Bucks. He actually averaged above 10 points per game in 3 separate seasons, but he never became a legit starter in the league and eventually found his way to the G League and then was playing in China by 2017. Since that time, he has bounced around playing professionally around the world. And in 2023, he was playing in the Puerto Rican Basketball League. But the 8th ranked player was Will Barton, out of Baltimore, Maryland, who actually attended Brewster Academy, the same program that also put out Devontae Graham and Donovan Mitchell. But he was the first. He played 2 seasons for the Memphis Tigers before putting his name in the draft and becoming a 2nd round pick. But unlike most 2nd round picks, Will Barton stuck in the league. After leaving the Blazers, he's played most of his career with the Denver Nuggets and started at several points during that stint through 2022. He's even averaged more than 15 points per game twice in his career with the Nuggets and played for the Raptors and Wizards in 2023. Will Barton is proof that if you are talented enough, you can play your way into becoming a legitimate contributor in the league. But since 2023, his playing time has been significantly reduced, playing for the Wizards and Raptors, which means Will Barton might be near the end of his career. The 7th ranked player on this list is Perry Jones, who has the distinction of having one of the shortest NBA careers of anybody on this list. He started at Duncanville High School in Texas and then attended Baylor, where he played for 2 seasons. He didn't even make first team all-conference in either season but entered the draft anyway and got picked 28th by the Oklahoma City Thunder, which leads me to believe that his high school rankings are the real reason why they took him. But that was a mistake, because they're the one and only NBA team that he played for. And in the few seasons he was there, he never averaged more than 5 points per game. He played a little bit in the G League, but bounced around the world internationally from there. And he most recently was playing in Taiwan. But he did win a Taiwanese basketball championship in 2022. So I guess maybe that's a success. But the 6th ranked player on this list has validated his spot since the moment he got it. Tobias Harris from Long Island Lutheran High School in New York went one and done after playing for the Tennessee Volunteers in the SEC. He went second team all-conference and was drafted 19th overall by the Charlotte Bobcats. For the record, they're just the Charlotte Hornets. But he was traded on draft night to the Bucks, and he proved himself the moment he got there. And now, years later, Tobias Harris is the definition of a fringe NBA All-Star. He's played for 5 NBA teams with a career average of 16 points per game, and ironically, was the best player for a hot minute on a Doc Rivers coached Clippers team. He probably shouldn't be much more than the 3rd best scoring option on any team that's actually trying to win a championship. But that's what the Philadelphia 76ers have him doing right now. And the next player on this list truly stands out, because he had one of the most electrifying high school mixtapes we have ever seen, and we ain't seen him much since then. Josh Selby was the 5th ranked player in 2010, making him the 2nd player from Baltimore, Maryland in the top 10. He chose the Kansas Jayhawks for his college basketball and was suspended for the first 9 games of the season. He wasn't even projected as a first-round NBA draft pick, but he left college anyway and was selected in the 2nd round, 49th overall. Playing for the Memphis Grizzlies, he was the Summer League co-MVP with Damian Lillard. But that is by far the highlight of his NBA career. He played 38 games in total in the NBA and didn't average more than 2 points per game when he did. And he bounced around the G League and 7 other countries after that. But he did become an All-Star in the Israeli Basketball League, which is a success, depending on how you look at it. The next 2 players on this list played the same position as Josh Selby, but they ain't nothing like him. The 4th ranked player was Brandon Knight. And depending on which scout you talk to, they would tell you he was the best point guard in his recruitment class. And that is because he was the Gatorade National Player of the Year twice while he was in high school. After winning state championships in Florida, he chose to play for the University of Kentucky, along with Terrence Jones, who is also on this list. And he went one and done, making the Final Four and going first team All-SEC. The Detroit Pistons took him 8th overall after that. And for a while, he was a legit NBA starter. He bounced around a bit, but averaged 17 points per game 3 times, and even averaged 19 points playing with the Suns. But injuries are the reason Brandon Knight's NBA career ended prematurely. He tried to fight his way through the G League in order to rehab those injuries, and he actually played incredibly well while he was there. He actually last played in the NBA in 2022, and in 2023, he was actually playing in the Puerto Rican Basketball League. But regardless of what anyone has to say, Brandon Knight was a legitimate NBA player. And after him, the truth about this list is no matter how you rearrange it, the name that belongs at the top is Kyrie Irving, because he was the 3rd ranked recruit in 2010. But ranking him 3rd was clearly a mistake, because he barely played during his freshman season at Duke University. And it didn't matter, because he was still the #1 pick when he left for the draft. I honestly didn't believe Kyrie Irving was that good until I saw him with my own eyes, because I was actually playing high school basketball and graduated in 2010. I remember sitting in Madison Square Garden watching Kyrie Irving put in work against Brandon Knight and all the rest of them, and it was clear he was on another level. Today, he's an NBA All-Star and an NBA champion, and he probably has one of the best handles we've ever seen in NBA history, and he almost definitively has the best layup package that we've ever seen in a video game. The only real concerns for Kyrie Irving exist off the court, because he misses a lot of games, and it's not always due to injury. However, Kyrie Irving is the most talented player in this recruitment class, and the scouts all figured it out just a few months after they finished publishing this list. Yet the second-ranked recruit in this class became the National Freshman of the Year in college basketball, Jared Sullinger at Ohio State. He's actually from Columbus, Ohio, and rewarded his hometown team with a trip to the Final Four. He left for the NBA after his sophomore season and became the 21st pick in the draft by the Boston Celtics. And the truth is that he might be the definition of an average NBA player, playing 5 seasons in the league and averaged 10 points per game when he did. But since the moment he left the NBA, he's basically played in China, except for 1 year where he became the MVP of the Korean League. He's led the entire Chinese league in rebounding, proving that he can still play basketball at a very high level, even if the days of positionless basketball have moved the NBA away from his skill set. And before I give you the top name on this list, I have to give a few honorable mentions, because even if you're not ranked in the top 10, you still have a legitimate shot at making it to the league. Dion Waiters, Cory Joseph, and Reggie Bullock were all ranked 15, 16, and 18th in the nation, and they've all had legitimate NBA careers. But only Dion Waiters became an NBA champion, but he retired in 2020 after that moment. Ranked between 25 and 50 were Enes Kanter, Terrence Ross, and Dwight Powell, all of which proved themselves to be legitimate players in the NBA. But outside of the top 50 were Jerian Grant and Tim Hardaway Jr., both of which were actually ranked below number 90. They became first-round draft picks just a few years later in their career, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is still filling it up in the NBA as a 3-level scorer. But the #1 recruit in the entire nation in 2010 was Harrison Barnes out of Ames, Iowa. Every scout back then basically said he was the most NBA-ready product in that recruitment class. And you can't really blame him, because he attended UNC for 2 seasons and won a bunch of awards when he did. And when he left for the NBA draft, he became the 7th pick for the Golden State Warriors, just in time to help Steph Curry and Klay Thompson win an NBA championship. And as a thank you, they swapped him out of the starting lineup, essentially for Kevin Durant. But he got a big payday when he went to the Dallas Mavericks. He never proved himself to be a primary or secondary scoring option in the NBA, but it doesn't really matter because he plays for the Sacramento Kings now. And starting for them, he helped them to the playoffs and surprised the entire league with the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. Harrison Barnes might not be the superstar that everybody hoped he would be, but the scouts were right. He was always NBA ready. It is a very big deal to become a top recruit in high school basketball. And the truth is that the scouts pretty much know what they're doing. But scouts can't play the games for you. And making it into the top 10 really only means that the scouts will be watching you closer. And you'll probably get at least 1 shot to make it in the NBA whenever you put your name into the NBA draft. But what really matters is everything that happens after that. Because the class of 2010 is proof that if you choose the right college and choose the right time to leave after you do, you should have a legitimate NBA career. Besides, if you don't, nobody's going to remember you anyway, because the scouts will just move on to some other underrated player who's been waiting to take your spot. I'm Coach Rob, and thank you so much for watching this video. And if you want to see more content like this, then please like and subscribe.